Hello, and welcome to the nslookkup CIT-04-L1 lab solution video. In this lab, we're going to go into the objectives of understanding how to use nslookkup to perform host and resource recon work on a target domain as we start to get the target information gathering phase. The mission is to use nslookkup command to query DNS records of a domain like a google.com. We're going to automate a DNS recon script. And we're also going to perform a DNS zone transfer. Lab duration is about 20 to 30 minutes. And the requirements is that we have a basic working knowledge and understanding of DNS, which we have discussed in the discussion portion of the course. And you should be familiar with the Windows command prompt, which is the CMD command, and also familiar with batch scripting. In this case, we're going to use a .bat to affect this exercise. Resources, you need VirtualBox, which I have here, and you need Windows 7, which is an ISO file available on Canvas. So you can download that, configure it. This is a continuation or a building of previous exercise. So these are the resources that you need. Okay, so let's get right into it. So lab task 1, execute a DNS query. It says we're going to use nslookkup to check the IP address of google.com. So first thing is step 1, open the Windows command prompt. Let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to type CMD. And here's my command prompt. I just made it a little bit bigger so we can have a little bit of real estate, be easy on the eyes. I'm just going to strike that here. Okay, so step number 2, run nslookkup, the command. nslookkup. And get the no need for parameters, type nslookkup and press enter. I'm over here in the office so you can see my DNS server. It says in step 3, enter a domain to retrieve its IP address. Type google.com and press enter. So in this case here, we're going to type google.com. And now I want the IP address of google.com. So the name server is 172.217.9.238. So that's the NS server or the name server of google.com. This is their IPv6 IP address. If you want it in that flavor, we're going to just stick with IPv4 in this case here. Okay, so in step 4, it says let's change the query DNS server to 1.1.1.1. So it's pretty straightforward here. So in this case here, we're going to use this command, server.1.1. So I go server 1.1.1. And now I have changed the default server of my nslookkup into 1.1.1. So I'm following precisely with step number 4. So good. Once again, once connected to the DNS server, which I am, I can query the server for the mail exchange records of a target domain. So in this case, it says we're going to query and look up the MX records for google.com. So the way we do this here is we use the set command, and I'm going to set Q and the record type that I can use into a DNS server. So in this case here, the record type is going to be MX for mail exchange. Then I'm going to type google.com. And this is tracking with step 5 here, this section here that's highlighted in the red box at Q equals MX, google.com. And when I hit enter, I get the same results that you see here. I get the MX record or the mail exchange record for Google. Again, pretty straightforward stuff here. And believe it or not, it's that simple. It says congratulations here. I can now list or enumerate the target domain's mail server using nslookkup. If I want to get out of the interactive prompt of nslookkup, I can just type exit and then I'm done. So I'm going to clear the screen here because on step 6, it says there are some bonus steps that we can take. And let's go ahead and do that. So we're in step 6. And in step 6, we have another way that we can do this. We can actually have command lines. So I can type nslookkup. And in this case here, I can use the type flag or the type switch. And the type flag is the different type of record I'm looking for. So in this case here, I'm typing nslookkup minus type equals, and in this case here, let's go ahead and just do the MX record again because we saw that before, right? And then, actually, let's just stay with the exercise in step 6 here. nslookkup minus type, and we're going to say equal CNAME. Google.com. And rather than have the interactive component of this, I can just use this directly into the CLI, the command line interface, and type in those commands. So this is another way of doing that. So we just did that with CNAME. let's cycle through the different type of records we can pull. So in this case here, I had CNAME, which is the canonical name or the chain name or an alias name, if you will. We'll try the TXT. I get some text information, which is some SPF, Sender Policy Framework. We'll talk a little bit more about that in the next section. I can go in and run this command. I can see the SOA information. Once again, we'll talk about this as well. And then last but not least, although it's not listed in the exercise file, we can do an MX, the mail exchange, right at the command prompt as well. And I get those mail exchange records that we saw before. So that concludes lab task number 1. Let's move down to lab task number 2, the DNS recon automation. So in this case here, step 1, it says create a new text file. So let's go ahead and minimize that. And actually did this on a previous exercise. So let's just get rid of this. Okay, so let's go ahead to Notepad. I have Notepad because I opened it before. And once again, let's be gentle on the eyes. I'm going to change the font a little bit. And if it's too big, I'll take a peek in a second. So it says create a new text file and name that file DNS. So I'm going to save this file and I'm going to save it to the desktop as dns.txt. Remember to save early and save often when it comes to files. And then first thing it says is @echo-off. This is so when I run the command, I don't have to replay the information back on the screen. And then, similar to what we did before, we're going to run some nslookkup commands. nslookkup minus type equals txt. And I'm going to look at google.com again. In this case here, google.com. And I'm going to append to a result.txt file. So let me just take a look at this command just to make sure I like it. So I'm nslookkup minus type flag. I'm looking for a text record at google.com, and I'm appending, not just piping to results.txt, but I'm appending, meaning if I run this batch file again, I'm going to keep adding to this result.txt file. Okay, I like what I see here. This was step 4. Let's go down to step 5. It says repeat this step for the following DNS record types. So I have text. I'm going to make this real easy on myself. I'm going to copy and paste. So I just copied. And in this case here, I'm going to paste a couple of times because we're going to do this. Excuse me. While I'm here, just go ahead, right? Why not? So I'm doing this for, we have text. In this case here, I'm going to change this for a name server. That's good. Another time, I'm going to do this for an MX record. So I have nslookkup, just to tighten things up. I'm just going to remove some spaces there. So my flag type is minus type equals text for text information name server MX. So we're good to go here. I'm going to save this once again, as we mentioned, save early and save often. And then I'm also going to save this as a script, the .bat file. So I'm going to do save as, and I'm going to call this DNS.bat. I'm going to save that to the desktop, which means that when I run this file as a batch file, it's going to output that to a file called result.txt. And because I didn't specify the path, it'll end up on the desktop. I don't need this for now, so I'm going to minimize this again just in case we have to come back to it a little bit later. Actually, I can close it out altogether. I'll just leave it alone. Okay, so I have my text file. I have my DNS, a batch file. It says to execute the script, save the text file as a batch script, which we did, and then double click it. And then I get a results file. And the results file gives me all the information that I was looking for. Here's my text in this first file, in the first command line. Here's my name server information in the second file, in the second command line. And then also here's my MX information over here. So I have harvested some name server, TXT, and MX DNS records. Great. Let's drop down to lab task 3, the DNS zone transfer. So I'm going to, once again, just close this out. I don't need this for now. It says follow the procedures in the first lab to open an nslookkup prompt. So let's go back to our prompt. I'm going to clear the screen. It says nslookkup. Okay, I'm at that server because I'm doing this from a different DNS domain. And it says configure nslookkup, step 2, to query for NS records. So I'm going to go ahead and do a couple of things. Number one is I'm going to set query equals name server. And the server that I'm looking for is I'm running a query against zone transfer.me. So zone transfer.me. And then I get the non-authoritative answer, which means it's just a cache copy from another DNS server, and it gives me this IP address, 81.4.108.41. It says configure nslookkup to use this server in the output from my previous step. So, okay, so basically I want to do server 81.4.108.41. Now that's going to be my DNS server that I will be running those commands against. It says reset the DNS record type to retrieval to any. That means I'm going to take anything that we have here. So I'm going to set Q equals any. That means I'll take whatever you've got. Whether you have text records, you have MX records, NS records, I'm just going to take whatever you've got. And then in this case here, we want to do this with zone transfer.me. And then I go ahead and it says it refused because I misspelled it. And there we have it. I now have the zone transfer information. And as it says here, it says inspect the results. If the domain accepts zone transfers, I should see a dump of all the DNS records for the DNS transfers. And here they are. And that's it. See you at the next lab.